Henry McClure live, coming to you live today from Studio 104 at Highcrest Fellowship Church, Highcrest Fellowship Church. And Marshall Barber's with us.
Hello.
Well, Marshall Barber's now, we're going to start a show called the Topeka Factor. So here we go.
Someone's got to do it.
This is the maiden voyage of the Topeka Factor. So let's have at it.
We're making podcast history, or failing that, we're just making a podcast.
So let's talk business. What listings do you got now that you'd like to promote?
Well, maybe as far as talking business is concerned, it occurs to me that people watching this podcast basically may wonder, who are these people? And I am somebody that has lived continuously in the capital city of Kansas, Topeka, since 1958, with the exception of 4 years in college at Grinnell College, known colloquially as the Harvard of the Midwest, between 68 and 72. I did some radio for a while in this town, and since 1985, I've been engaged in the practice of residential real estate with the occasional commercial real estate transaction. So basically, I am somebody who has seen the real estate market since shortly after the post-Carter 19% interest rate period when nobody was doing anything. And I've been in the business ever since. And at this point in the Topeka real estate market, we are seeing a lot of listings sell almost as soon as they hit the market.
All right, so no, hang on. So give me a chance.
At this point,
because I should introduce myself now.
I think that's a good plan.
Yeah, I mean, I walk around thinking everybody knows Henry McClure, and boy, he's right. So July 13th, 1959, boom. And I lived in Topeka all but 18 years of my life. And I traveled around renovating shopping malls. And I didn't hate Topeka when I left, but I'm glad to be home.
You might mention who you worked for.
Well, I worked for the Mace Rich Company, who were the second owners of White Lakes. I worked for, first I worked for Bill Lewis Real Estate. And I got my first license.
I remember that.
Yeah, in 1979.
You were in real estate before I was in real estate, even though you were like 20 years younger than me.
Well, wait a minute. If you were born in 58.
No, I was born in 1950.
Oh, okay. All right.
So technically 9 years. But it's interesting that you have this background in Mace Rich.
Well, yeah, the Mace.
Considering the changes that have been occurring nationally in retail, and considering the impact of that on the capital city with regards to, as you mentioned, White Lakes and West Ridge.
So I left Mace Rich because I thought shopping in 1995. I thought shopping on the internet was going to become popular. And
you thought that in 95?
Yes. So I created shopwave.com. And we're doing secure serving over 14.4 modems. And then the modems went up to 33.3, dial-up modems. And I invested in an ISP, internet service provider. And I bought 66 modems, 66 speed. And then I bought a Pipeline 50, which was 128 transfer to my home. And I had a server there, and I was building a secure server, and we made a deal that, like, hey, if you leave the company, you're out. We think you should do it on a leave of absence, but the guy running the company at the time, the chairman of the board wanted a leave of absence. The president said no. Either.
This was Mace Rich?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Mace Siegel said, he's chairman, and, and my buddy, Mace said, well, why don't you do it on a leave of absence? But Art Coppola, the then president, said, no, you can't have that, because at the time, could you believe it or not, I had kind of my own deal with the company.
Okay.
You know, and we were going public, and so it was time to get guys like Henry McClure to conform. You know what I
To
mean?
back up just a bit,
Okay.
when you said going public, this refers to the fact that you are going to have an initial public offering
For
to buy
Mace,
stock.
yeah, for Mace Ridge.
To buy stock in Mace Ridge.
Yeah, and it opened up at 19, and I had some stock options, and I probably should have, you know, if you're going to play hindsight, I should have, you know, kept
Coulda,
my
woulda, shoulda. Yeah.
woulda, coulda, shoulda, kept my day job and done the internet as a side hustle. But you know, I went all in, and but before that, then I worked for the Simnett brothers after Ben Blair, or after Bill Lewis,
Okay.
and then Ben Blair at Coldwell Banker.
Okay.
And Ben was totally a cool guy.
Oh yeah.
And he offered me a really good deal to stay in Topeka. And you know, real estate is a great career for young people. I met a young guy, Hunter, out at Doug Bassett's office, and he's getting into real estate. And I thought, man, you know, what a great opportunity. You know, real estate has been, it's not just a job, you know, it's an adventure. It's been life now.
It's a calling, and it's a way that you can have a really good impact on someone's life.
Well,
And then from a career standpoint,
I've never looked at it as a job.
yeah. Well, if you do look at it as a job, it's going to ruin you. I'll just say that to anyone that's thinking about getting into it. But if you look at it as a calling or as a
You just can't jump into it.
yeah.
You know, you gotta have some money because it's all commission.
right,
You know, that's kind of what I think about our economic development in this community. If you had to live by commission, you might actually do business differently. You know, it's one thing to be a salaried, you know, live off of you know, the public dole and do economic development, but it's another thing to be able to make it in the streets. And
yeah,
that,
because either what you're doing works or you're out on the street
yes.
with a hand lettered cardboard sign.
Well, and if we come back to the mall business today,
Yeah.
I think being able to
circle
survive
back
in
to
Topeka, Kansas, since 2000 in the streets, is that knowledge is better than my mall business for the guy that owns the mall today.
Well, this being the Topeka factor,
The Topeka
I guess
factor.
what we're trying to say here is that the perspective that we offer as co-hosts would be the perspective of people who have literally spent their lives in the real estate industry. In my case, someone who's just been here, but in the case of Henry, somebody who's not only been here, but has been out there in the national real estate commercial environment. So that's our perspective that we're bringing to you here on the Topeka Factor.
Well, and I got to tell you one thing. When I was a kid, which I still am, but you were my hero on Kiwi. You know, KEWI 1440, and I loved Kiwi. I loved Fred.
Oh,
Fred Reynolds. He was
Yeah.
a great guy. What was his wife's name? Because she was a real tolerant lady. Fred.
Was that Jean?
Yeah, they were great. They were great people.
Some of us used to call her Mama Carlson.
And then,
after
oh yeah.
the big guy and the big guy's wife.
Well, and I love that movie or that show.
WKRP.
Yeah, WKRP. Living on the air in Cincinnati. I'm tired of all the packing and unpacking, moving up and down the dial.
You've watched the show.
Yeah. Well, I liked Les Nessman when they
Yeah.
were throwing the turkeys out, right?
Yeah.
The frozen turkeys. The
okay.
humanity.
But
Sorry.
yeah,
I digress. Sorry.
Kiwi, that goes back. I mean, when we're talking about the speaker factor, I guess any subject is probably going to be relevant as long as it pertains to Topeka.
Well, last time we were in the coffee shop, people came up to you and
Right.
remembered you as being a star.
Well, and this has to do with the way radio was, and a big question is, at least for some people, a question is, how do you market real estate, and what media is there that people in any community like Topeka truly relate to as being sort of the connecting thread for all aspects.
Yeah,
of the community.
and I think we're trying to embrace that right here with this show, the Topeka Factor, and I would try to, I would like to produce a show that people would say, man, I want to go on that show, and have a friendly discussion, have a thought-provoking discussion about the issues. So one thing that I understand is coming up is they're going to talk about how to. A city councilman the other day asked me about, well, what town did they think are you treated better than Topeka? And it's like,
why did he ask you that question?
well, because they want to try to figure out how to be more development friendly. I guess a guy had a big deal that he wanted to do, and the city approved it, but the Landmarks Commission turned it down, and then the city council had to override the Landmarks Commission.
So we have these, what is it, not interlocking layers, what am I trying to say here, in terms of different
There's
layers. Crossovers for getting things approved.
Well, you know what it really comes down to? I think
the landmark, go ahead.
Well, I think Topeka, it's like the city council or the community needs to have a business plan. Hey, this is what I want the plan.
We don't have a business
Well,
plan?
I don't think it's the comprehensive plan. I mean, I don't believe that is looked at like a business plan. When I was a planning commissioner, I didn't really look at it as like a way to implement businesses within the community.
You were on the planning commission.
I was,
correct?
back when it was the Metropolitan Planning Commission and the MPO.
Okay, so
Back in the day.
I guess a good question would be, for the people doing this now, is, do you see yourselves as facilitators, or do you see yourselves as gatekeepers? And I think what people like the person you mentioned who was complaining are saying is that all too often the people involved see themselves as gatekeepers, and they interpret their job as being one to throw up obstacles in order to prevent things from happening, that in a way that doesn't meet whatever imaginary standards they think they have.
And you know what worries me? You know what worries me about that concept is, what if some guy just comes to town and takes the gatekeeper's word for gospel and leaves?
Well,
how many
Exactly.
how many times has the gatekeeper lost business for Topeka? That's a good question.
there's something going on right now, and this is very minor in the overall scheme of things, but it's not minor to the people involved.
What's that?
In that this pertains to residential real estate, but there's a certain church that would like to sell off a building lot, and there are people who are interested in buying that lot so they
To
can
build a house.
To build a house.
What's wrong with that?
So you take 3 acres that is currently tax-free because it's owned by a church,
Right.
and it's grass that somebody cuts. It generates no jobs, generates no property taxes.
Well, tell that
It's
to
just
the
sitting
preacher.
there. It's just sitting there. Well, okay, this particular church decided, okay, it's time to sell this lot. Okay, problem
What's
being,
the obstacle?
here's the obstacle.
What's the gatekeeper saying?
Way back when, they had their entire property platted, okay?
Right.
And part of the plat approval was getting this land on city sewer,
Right.
if someone ever decided they wanted to use this land.
Okay, so we're there.
Meanwhile, the church building itself is on city sewer.
Okay.
But to get this 3 acres, to get it on city sewer, would involve running probably about 1,000 feet of new sewer line, which gets into about a total of maybe $300,000.
Well, isn't there a simpler way to tie onto the sewer?
Well, the simplest way to do it would be, of course, to
Hook
just
on the church sewer.
well, and now that, for a number of reasons, that's not feasible.
Okay.
I mean, that could be done, but let's say it can't be done. Why not just have the house be on septic like everything else up there? I don't
Well,
want to
where is it? Where is
I can't be too specific
Okay,
about
okay.
it because it's
Well,
property.
so here's what we do. We
well,
tell.
wait a minute,
All right.
just a second. So the gatekeepers are saying they're kind of doing this. Well, now, 30 years ago, you agreed to a plat
Yeah.
that says if anyone's ever going to do anything with this lot, it's got to go on city sewer. Okay, well, fine, but why not just say this doesn't really need to be this way?
So let's just say it's
Why don't you just say, okay, go ahead, build your house, and we'll revise the plat, and that's all there is to it.
now is this a 3 mile radius thing? Does that
Yeah.
have something to do?
Oh yeah, it's in the 3 mile radius.
Oh, and there's.
I'd rather not say exactly
Okay,
where it
that's
is.
fine. But there's the problem right there, is that they're out in a no man's area because the 3 mile radius, there's nobody that the church can go complain to politically, because
Well, it's in the county. and-
well, no, but the county doesn't. The county commission, planning commission doesn't look at it. The city planning commission looks at it because it's in the 3 mile radius. So here's what you have to do. You actually, what I suggest is that the county planning commission review it, and get the county to give their input, and then turn that input to the city planning commission.
Okay.
And if they argue, well, all right, then you've got to form a third planning commission, and that's in the statute for state law.
Really?
Yes.
Form a third commission?
Yes, it's a state, it's statute. But because think about it,
Well,
that church person or people within the 3 mile radius don't have an elected official to talk to. They elected their county
well,
commissioner.
they've got a county commissioner.
But the
Okay.
county commissioner, they can't complain to him because the city gatekeepers squelching the deal.
Because for some reason they are talking to the county planning department as well as the city. It seems like both departments have jurisdiction here.
Well, so you want to know the fastest way to do it is you have the priest say he's going to
the
build a
pastor.
house. The pastor is going to build a house over there, and it's the church doing it. And they just happen to build it to the plan of the guy.
Well, they would, yeah.
And then we just sell it to the guy.
Now you're committing a Christian institution to pursuing a rather devious strategy.
And
But
here I've worked for the bishop of the Episcopal Church. I've worked for the, my first show was Father Nikolai of the Antioch Church, which I need your help selling his building.
okay, where is the building?
It's at Medford and Medford and Huntoon.
Okay. Okay.
But so look,
so they wanna sell the church
Topeka
building?
factor just hit on one of the very biggest issues of the community right here on our first show, and that is the planning commissions. And what they need to do is they need to put the planning commissions back together. Because
Good point.
yes, anybody that says more government is better, needs to get in the canoe and go downstream.
Well, and then, when you say more government, how about,
Less committees.
well, and I know this probably could never happen, but how about if we just have one government? as opposed to city county with duplicating?
No, I'm hearing you.
How about if we just have?
I am for consolidation.
Yeah, consolidation.
I
That's
am.
the word I'm looking for.
The Topeka factor. Just move the boundaries of the government and reseed it. Blackburn always says you got to have 7 people because it's easier to buy, you could buy 5 people, you could buy your votes easier if you had a 5-person. It'd be easy to buy 3 votes.
It's the rule of sevens.
Yeah, so 7-person, and then just move the boundary of the city out to the county.
Sure.
Boom, we're done.
That way, that could put, we're sort of hypothecating.
Yeah,
here,
so now we're riding young colts.
if something like that were to actually happen, Topeka would vault into a nationwide position of being on the absolute cutting edge of progressive thinking.
I like vaulting.
I mean, we would like, because, well, and this kind of alludes to a different possible topic, which is, and will be exploring this, I'm sure, over the next several.
Hey, we can
Editions
we
of
can
this.
do another show after this. We should have brought change of clothes so they don't know that we're just going to shoot back-to-back shows.
I've got a different shirt out in the
Change
car.
the colors in the background.
All right, so now let's
no,
try to make a real estate deal.
Let me go back
Let's
to
talk
this
about
thought.
one of your listings.
Let me go back to this thought.
Okay.
Which is that there are national trends going on as we speak, which could very well culminate in a town like Topeka being less of a backwater. I'm talking about the national scene here, and becoming an extremely sought after area. And if we were to do something like what you suggest, consolidate, we would add to the momentum of something that's already starting to happen. And we would be vaulting forward in the perception.
Okay, so when
Nationally.
you were born in '50, what was the population of the city of
It was
Topeka?
about 80,000, wasn't it?
I don't know. I wasn't born then. It was 119,059.
Right.
So I can't imagine growing by 30,000.
The actual city.
Well, wait, did it grow because of Forbes Air Force Base that much?
No, I'm not thinking that Forbes was actually counted in our census at that time. But when we moved here in 1958,
From where?
From Baltimore.
Really?
Yeah. And that's a different story. But we were told the population here was roughly 75, 80,000, something like that. And we've been. You can say the Topeka population is still about 125 or 130, but since then, the number of people
county grew.
living out in the county,
Yeah. Because of white flight after Brown versus Board,
a number of things.
which could be that would be an interesting study.
It would.
I would like to do that in my lifetime because of my grandfather's connection to Brown versus Board, Judge James A. McClure.
Well, but what I'm suggesting is that over the next, as this show continues, the Topeka Factor continues, we will be looking into ways in which this city is becoming more and more a sought-after place to live and a more viable place to live.
All right, but now so the Topeka Factor for the first 25 minutes has been John. So now let's make one real estate deal as we close, and I'll try to make one. Tell me about one of your listings,
Well,
because we're down to 5 minutes.
5 minutes for this show?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's
Well,
the
right.
biggest deal you want to sell right now?
All right.
Most important one.
Here's the deal. We have 400 new listings.
No, your sale.
I'm getting to it.
All right.
And what we are having is almost as soon as property hits the market, it sells.
Oh, that's right. Okay, go ahead.
So
This is where I cut you off the first time.
What I'm going to tell you is we're going to make a video that I guess we'll have access to for the next show, or
Well, see, what I can do is I can take So if you
I'm talking about
you
a
tell me the
four-bedroom-
address of your store,
I'm talking
Or
about a
the-
4-bedroom.
your house.
4 bedrooms, 2 baths, 2
Okay.
full baths.
Okay, what's the address?
And the address is 921 Southwest Plass.
And I understand you're renovating it.
It is being rehabbed as we speak.
Okay.
And
So it's a work in progress.
what's interesting too is if you go into the central part of the city with older homes,
Yeah.
a lot of times what people do is they'll say, okay, we have a 3-bedroom house. Well, it was a 2-bedroom house and they finished the attic, okay, for this 3rd bedroom. This house, way back when, had an actual half-story added to the original house. So these are 4 true bedrooms with true 8-foot ceilings, none of the stuff that you have to walk under when you're in finished attic space. So this is going to be a great house for somebody, and we're going to be about 160 on that house.
Okay, so what we can do is when we go make our live video today or tomorrow, I'll just link it on, it'll be a comment right under this, but anyway, we'll have a link to your house video that we make tomorrow on this show. And what I suggest we do is we just take a pause for a commercial break, and then we come back and just roll right into another show if you've got time.
Let's do that.
How we doing, Braille, on time?
Yeah, you're good. You can break now if you want.
All right. We're gonna take a pause to rewind the tape and make an adjustment, and the Topeka Factor will be right back with you. Thank you. Henry McClure Live. I'm here with Father Nikolai of the St. Peter and Paul's Orthodox Church, and Father Nikolai, you got a big thing coming up here in October. Tell us about it.
We do. Every year in the fall we have our Topeka Greek Festival, and this year it is Saturday, October 15th, and we had a great time last year. A lot of people came out. It was the post-COVID festival. You know, we had our kind of COVID festival where everybody just kind of came in, picked stuff up, and left. Last year, you could stay, you could sit, and now it's the really post-COVID festival. So we're expecting, a large crowd this year, and the same great food that we have every year. We'll have our normal ethnic Mediterranean dishes, gyros and the Greek meatballs and baklava, and then they always make a ton of cakes and desserts and you go down in the basement for the Greek coffee.
The Greek coffee.
Yeah.
Talk about the Greek coffee. Tell me real quick.
Well, it's
Come on.
really finely ground Arabic coffee that you just kind of cook it over the stove, and it just is just very kind of high viscosity kind of texture to it.
I drink it without the sugar.
So
I like it just
plain.
full on.
Yeah, a lot of people like it with the sugar, but it goes great with all of the sweets that we have. And so this year we're excited to have our festival again. And
I want to take a minute to invite all the MCRE LLC customers to come to the Greek Festival, because not only is it a great fundraiser, but it would be a great opportunity for you to view the church that I've got the task of selling. And so perfect timing for everything.
yes,
Thanks, Father Nikolai.
my joy.
Welcome back to the Topeka Factor. I'm Marshall Barber. I'm a real estate agent with Valley Inc. Realtors, your quality corner, 6th and Van Buren, downtown Topeka. Henry McClure.
Henry McClure Live. I'm the broker at MCRE LLC. I focus on commercial real estate.
Commercial real estate agent extraordinaire.
Thank you.
And
Appreciate that.
So
I've enjoyed developing houses though, and flipping houses. I've made some money, and so let's talk about we're going to do some videos of a couple of projects that you're developing.
now,
In our first segment, I mentioned them as listings, which I misspoke. They're not listings yet on the MLS. these are projects that you're developing as more of an owner developer.
That's correct. As a real estate agent, I have to be careful about,
Disclosures.
well, that too, but I can't really promote a future listing
Well, if you've got an
in a way that's
ownership,
construed
yeah,
as,
I get
in
it.
a way
I
that's
get it.
construed as advertising. You know, there's one.
Aren't there some people that put like coming soon signs out there?
Well, they can do that.
Is that a sore
but
subject?
They can also get in a lot of trouble if they
Topeka
don't
factor.
do it exactly right. What we're talking about, of course, is the difference between real estate that I, as an agent, own and will sell, and you calling this development, which is true.
Yeah, we have to
that's a true
disclose
thing.
everything. If I buy something, I've got to disclose that I'm a licensed broker in the state of Kansas, and I put that in the contract, and I sign, and underneath my signature block,
There you go. There you
licensed
go.
broker.
So I'm really not acting as an agent on these two houses that we can talk about, 921 Southwest Plass and also 1041 Southwest Webster. There will be other houses and other commercial properties even that we can be discussing in the future. But before I can advertise those, they actually have to be listed on MLS. There was a time, when some agents would kind of sneak around and they'd want to get both sides of the deal. So as opposed to putting it on MLS right away, they'd have what's known as a pocket listing. Now, as long as the owner of the property is okay with that, that's fine. But you can't, as an agent, you can't tell the owner that you're doing everything you can to sell their property and then turn around and not put it on MLS without their knowledge.
Okay, so I'm a licensed broker in the state of Kansas, yet I'm not a member of the MLS, and I'm not a member of the Topeka Board of Realtors. So
Which is now the Sunflower, but yeah, keep going.
but I can't market myself as a realtor. And if you
okay.
yeah,
I
if
see.
you call me a realtor, actually I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm a licensed broker in the state of Kansas, and I have a fiduciary relationship to, and I think that over my lifetime I've met all the standards that realtors do.
Sure.
I'm more than happy to pay commissions on any of my listings. That half of something is better than 100% of nothing. So, so it's a good segue. It was interesting. Father Nikolai, I watched Father Nikolai's show, and he said something that really threw me for a loop, that he couldn't get calls back from people, other real estate
What do you
people. Well, they were calling on properties, and he felt they weren't calling him back because they didn't have an agent.
Oh. You mean he would call the listing
He would
agent?
call different listing people, off their signs. But
And they didn't call
what's
him back?
more important than calling somebody back?
Well, yeah.
Babe Ruth said half a winning is showing up. I guess the other half's answering the phone. Here,
That's interesting because, again, if you are representing yourself as somebody who can effectively market someone's property, then a real fundamental part of that is getting your sign up, and then if people call you about the sign, calling them back.
well, signs are the number one way to get leads.
Right.
So in my business, if let's say Dunkin' Donuts happens to be coming to the market, right? And let's say Dunkin' Donuts needs to open up 3 more stores.
Okay.
Well, the Dunkin' Donuts real estate guy, usually it's in-house, an employee of Dunkin' Donuts, or their broker, they hop in the car and they drive around. Yeah, they probably
Okay.
looked it up on the internet first. And a friend of mine from Abilene, Big John, was telling me that, I should join Crexy, which is a commercial real estate company. It's like they're in their 8th year. Developed by brokers 4 brokers, and I was able to join Crexy today. You know, it's like I had been thinking about whether to join LoopNet, and then there's CoStar is really the parent company
Of
LoopNet,
I did not know that.
and so but I've used blogs and the telephone. You know, if I want somebody, I go call them, and I hound them until, you know, May Siegel, my mentor, said, you know, sometimes you got to ask 20 times.
Because we were talking before the break. We were talking about the difference between working on salary and working on commission, and you would think that someone who's working on commission, realizing they don't get paid until
Closing.
you would think that person would return phone calls.
That'd be the first guy.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's like
Now,
Rail over here was smart enough to tell me about the boundaries. You know, he actually has boundaries of like, okay, look, you have studio time,
Okay.
and you show up on time,
Yeah.
and then we have editing time.
right.
But like when it's real estate time, it's 24/7. You know, I want to make a deal. Doug Bassett was telling me the other day, we were having dinner one time. And I hope Doug someday comes on the show. He's you know, he owns the Berkshire Hathaway franchise.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Doug, and one of my favorite commercial guys. So Doug said we were at dinner one time, and
Maybe
somebody.
he could swing getting us Warren Buffett as a studio guest. Berkshire Hathaway.
Well, I think Dana might be able to get
Yeah.
Warren.
If anybody could, she could.
No,
Yeah.
no, Dana is a man. But anyway,
Oh, I thought you were referring to his wife.
no. Well,
Isn't that
she
his
could
wife
probably
is
get
a
him.
loan officer at Landmark?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
No. In that. No, that's his brother's wife.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You know that Brad.
Yeah.
They're in the business together.
Right.
So anyway,
Oh, you meant Dana Anderson.
yeah, Dana Kay. There's a picture of Warren Buffett whispering in his ear, and he said,
Well, let's get them both.
"I bet I could get Dana on the show.
That'd be cool.
I think
That
he'd
would
do
be
it."
awesome. See, the Topeka Factor is going to be this multifaceted, multi-layered conduit portal. Let's say it's a portal
Well, I'm telling
to
you,
a big, big world out there.
if you talk about the Topeka factor when it comes to Dana Anderson, it's
you go.
it's mind blowing.
Yeah.
It really is, because he hired a lot of us because he knew we wouldn't mind moving. You know, when he was in Southern California, he talked to a UCLA graduate, and they go, Columbus, Georgia, where's that? You know, we had malls all over.
Well, that's a pretty good question.
Well, it's better than Camp Lejeune, where I guess they had that contaminated water. But anyway, Macerich started off they started off at White Lakes.
People have people from Kansas have a reputation nationally for being hard workers.
Well, yeah.
So I could see where somebody in California wanting to promote their real estate might be influenced by that.
And I'm proud to be a Kansan. I love it. I mean, I think at some point in time, you know, I was talking to my CoStar rep today, and he lives on Venice Beach in the LA area, which is by Marina Del Rey. And he said when COVID came, the beaches were closed, but all the homeless people moved out to the beach, and then they never kicked them off.
The homeless people came to stay.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
they're-
if you're going to live in California, you better live on the beach.
Venice Beach
And I
is
guess
now
if you're
their
going to
home.
be homeless, why not live,
Yeah.
In a warm area?
Gee whiz. Yeah. So
So where were we? What were we talking about?
I thought.
Reel me in.
Yeah.
We got two guys with attention deficit. So, all right. Let's talk about White Lakes for a second, real
Okay.
quick. And
By the way, can you hear my phone going off? Is it?
now I can only hear it in your hearing aid.
Okay, so it's not bothering you.
No, it's not.
You got it taken care
Is it
Okay.
somebody we need to talk to?
It's somebody I can call back.
Because we got to figure out how to get.
this has to do with
Braille,
returning phone calls.
can we get like live phone calls on the show?
No, that'll cost you extra.
All right. Well, I'm a sport.
No,
I think we need to buy some more wireless microphones. I might pitch in.
Yeah, if there'd be a way of jacking the telephone into the control board here, that'd be
Wouldn't that be
awesome.
cool?
Yeah.
Call in. You know, I used to do that when I'm my walks on the Shunga. I had this. It's called Periscope, and I was making live videos and sending them out to Twitter. And you could call in on my phone, and it would go out live. I had the first talk show on Periscope and Twitter.
You had an ambulatory talk show.
I'm
so
telling you,
You were talking the talk and walking the walk out there on the
Henry
Sunday
McClure
trail.
living the word. Hey,
so-
I talked to a guy that lived on the set or the field where they shot Braveheart.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
About 40% of my Twitter followers, the 16,300 Twitter followers, are 40% are not in the country. They're worldwide.
Well, now, okay. Is this show going on Twitter?
I can tweet the link,
Okay.
and I will.
Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, I tweeted, and that's what I'd like to do with Father Nikolai, because a lot of his, the Orthodox Church is born really in Mother Russia, and there might be a lot of people that want to leave that area, and they could come settle here in Topeka.
Well, yeah. I mean,
And what was that on Plas? We got
921
two.
Plas.
We got room for the Orthodox in those two houses.
absolutely.
I just
bring the family.
I just invested in Boxable. Have you seen that?
In what?
Boxable.
Boxable. No, I have not seen Boxable.
Boxable. It's like a house that unfolds, and it's just like
Is that one of those?
it shows up on a semi.
Is that one of those 3D printer?
No,
houses?
no,
The ones they're building out of concrete in Austin?
no. This is a regular. Like Elon Musk just bought one to be
Yeah?
cool. It's like 50 grand, and the Boxable is called the Casitas. So a friend of mine that used to work for the Macerich Company, Charlie Moore, lives in Vegas. His best buddy did a 750,000 square foot lease with Boxable. And I called Charlie up. I go, I'm seeing these Boxable ads. And he goes, yeah, a friend of mine did the lease with him. They're for real. And you can go out and tour the plant. Henry McClure Live wants to tour Boxable.
Boxable. Remember, you heard it first on the Topeka Factory.
And they've got, and also I sent it to the planning department.
Okay.
And before I invested, and he said, yeah, we could do that. Just to take their temperature.
So these are houses?
They're houses.
Okay.
Boxable.
What kind of foundation?
You build it. You build the foundation, you stub in the utilities.
Like you would with any.
Yeah, and then they
stick-built
just
home.
come in and set the house on it, unfold it, and you can live in it that night.
Can you carry these houses around in a backpack?
Well, not quite. That's no. There's a guy that did that. They're like the pallet homes.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
I didn't want to invest in that one.
But some of these,
Too
perhaps,
small.
some of these might be developed in reaction to the higher costs involved in traditional stick-built homes. Is that?
Well, and I think I think they're a great alternative for the military.
Oh yeah.
You
Yeah.
could, and the military's got a contract with Boxable. But I just think I think it creates an interesting housing solution. Personally, when it comes to housing,
Yeah, from the affordability standpoint.
well, yeah, 50 grand. That's not bad to have the refrigerator's in there when you unfold it.
If you're saying the house itself only costs $50,000,
Yeah.
so you add to that foundation, infrastructure, yada.
No, I
yada,
think
yada.
that I'm going to have to
By-
check this out.
By the time I'm just saying.
I
that-
think the whole thing, soup to nuts, is 50 grand.
Let's say you go down to Potwin Square, buy a lot for $15,000, put in your driveway, put in your foundation, which has the plumbing, the sewer hookups. You might have 30,000 involved in all that. So with the house costing 50, you've got a bingo, you've got a new house for 80 grand.
Well, we'll get Habitat for Humanity
would
to
be
start
awesome.
buying these houses and then get off other people's back.
Well, you can get $5,000 lots. You know, you would need
I think there's a lot of lots.
risk of sounding
I've
like-
been to those auctions, which you're good at, but I've been to those auctions where you can buy lots for hundreds of dollars.
yeah, the certain lots.
The infill lots.
Yeah, you could find infill lots right now for really, really inexpensive prices.
Well, so I sold, out at White Lakes, I sold John Parker of Mainline Printing the Sears building in 2004.
Right, okay.
And they're tearing down the rest of it. I used to, at nauseum, tell him he needed to buy the rest of it. And then I developed the
come on,
Taco
John.
John's.
Yeah,
That's now
it's now, I go there all the time. It's good, it's great. Ponchos.
Pancho, he's a good guy.
That's right there on Croy and Topeka.
Yes.
And okay, this is Topeka Factor. Topeka has been blessed with a lot of good Mexican restaurants. And Ponchos is definitely one of them.
Yeah. And thank you. I mean, their chicken.
Croy and
Have you ever had their chicken burrito?
Oh yeah,
It's like
chicken enchiladas.
it's like they're
Feeds a
packed.
family of 4.
One burrito.
Hey, well, yeah,
telling you.
seriously. See this real estate folder? Imagine this as a burrito.
You take one of those to a Boxable house, and it's Thanksgiving. But anyway, so I just sold him the Gordman's building and 5 acres, and they're not going to close down. They can't afford to close down what they have in the old Sears building at White
okay.
Lakes Mainline, but they're going to build. So they got 90,000 feet and about 5 acres of land, and then I've got to develop the out parcels, and I'd also sell Wild Horse today. So for about $3 million, you could buy about 6 acres.
Just to be clear, Wild Horse is it's a drinking establishment.
It's a country.
That's not quite the phrase I was looking for.
It's a country bar.
But it's a dance emporium.
Come on, there's an old word. There's a good word for a saloon.
Yeah, saloon. It's a club.
It's a club, Western club.
So was that in the building that the theater used to be in?
Yes.
Okay, so
Where I saw Jaws.
yeah, that's where I only went to see one Star Wars, and it was at that theater in 1977.
What you've only seen. You liked it so much, that was it. You
I
just saw
liked it
one
so
show.
much I never saw another Star Wars.
Okay.
I saw. Well,
So you like science fact.
well. Anyway, I'm more of a Blade Runner type guy than a Star Wars.
Did you
type.
like the remix of that Blade Runner? That was interesting.
See, the reason I couldn't move into my parents' basement after watching Star Wars, like most people who watch Star Wars, my parents lived in a house that didn't have a basement. So
Hey,
I was on my own.
Hey, we're getting a slab house just in case he wants to come back after college.
Yeah.
That's
Which
funny.
might be the advantage of your boxable home.
Yes.
We put them on slabs.
That's the way
okay.
to get the pajama class out of the bathroom or out of the basements.
Okay. So back to your development over there by the old Richmond Gordman building.
Yes.
You've got the former
So let's
theater,
just sell it. Let's just sell it for $3 million, and I'll pay somebody a
which
3%
has a lovely
commission.
dance club.
Yes.
And then you've got mainline printing going into what had been
Now, in the
the store.
meantime,
But also you've got parcels, other parcels.
well, Wild Horse could step up and buy their building and land.
They could.
They could.
As well they should.
And like where Bennigan's was, we've got a parcel.
Okay.
And I think I've made up my
I missed
mind.
that Bennigan's, by the way.
Everybody goes, I want the Monte Cristo.
Okay.
Remember that sandwich?
Well, then, if you remember the movie,
That probably had to be the worst,
we can-
most
if we can-
unhealthy sandwich.
if we can talk about movies occasionally on
We
the
can.
show, there
You know,
was a movie, The Grifters.
Yes.
with John Cusack and
That's a good movie.
Angelica Houston. That movie started in a Bennigan's, if you remember. The scene where he's pulling the little grift with acting like he's giving the bartender a 20 when he's only giving him a 5 and getting change for a 20. That was in Bennigan's.
You know, I saw.
Not your Bennigan's, but it was
You
a Bennigan's.
remember Gauge 4 theaters?
Yes.
So I saw Star Wars 4 times in one day.
You
at
would.
Gauge 4 theaters.
That's so Henry.
We
Star
snuck
Wars 4 times.
we snuck beer into the theater.
geez.
The screening guy's coming down there, and we're drinking beer in the theater. You know,
Excellent.
that's old Henry. That's Henry 1.0.
That reminds me of the night I snuck a bottle of cold duck into the old Jayhawk to watch the Night Porter.
Cold duck?
Cold duck. You remember cold duck?
No.
Cold duck?
No, I do remember that.
Yeah.
I had some friends on Skid Row.
That was a story that didn't end well for me. But let's go back to your development.
The development. Good.
Yeah. Parcels.
Parcels.
How are they zoned? What can you put
It's
there?
well, look, it's C4.
C4.
But I've got a conditional use for I-Light with the PUD, but it's only I-Light if the building's enclosed. So you can't do everything in I-Light. There's no outdoor storage in our PUD.
Outdoor storage.
Yeah, if you look at the zoning for I-Light, you can store stuff outside.
You mean like RV storage, that sort of thing?
Well, or, you know, you could put a shipping container there. You could put
Oh,
a fence
okay.
up and
Okay.
put fencing or steel girders or, you know, whatever you wanted to store outside. So the PUD, the city was actually really good. Kevin Holland with
Helping you with
Cook,
the-
Flat, and Strobel.
Yeah, helping you with the PUD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I always look for, you know, the good in everything. And
Well, and I'm not saying we should be like Houston and have no zoning, but
they have no zoning in Houston.
Harris County, no zoning. Which is one of the reasons why they had so much growth down there. It's also one of the reasons now why people are fleeing that area in terror. But
Well, I remember the see-through buildings.
yeah,
You know, when the office market peaked, they
Oh,
had,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
They had buildings you could, like if you were going through Houston, you could just see through them. No tenants,
right.
no occupants.
Kind of like our old Holiday Inn down there on what street is that? Madison.
Oh yeah,
That's a
I
see-through
talked to
building.
the owner of that,
Yeah.
and I want to do a walkthrough on that building.
Well, we should do a walkthrough of that building.
We ought to
and
do a Topeka Factor.
If the owner would come on Topeka Factor,
Okay.
that would be a future.
Yeah, he owns
That'd
the.
be a good future show.
Yeah, we got to figure out how to get
that-
people to show up to their appointments.
Yeah. You know, returning phone calls,
Showing up
for
to
appointments.
meetings.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, we digress.
I've done that though. I've failed on occasion to make appointments. One of
Well, you know
those
what?
failures-
We're human.
One of those, you know, I was so stressed out once about another deal I was working on that these very nice people were calling me about listing their house because it had been on the market with a different company and they hadn't gotten it sold. And I said, yeah, I'll be over there Wednesday. And this other deal I was working on, which was very convoluted, and I won't go into all that, but I was so whacked by that thing, I completely forgot about this Wednesday appointment.
You know what's harder?
So it
You
can
know
happen.
what
It
the
can
real
happen.
difference between residential and commercial real estate is?
Well, let's hear it.
The paperwork.
The paperwork?
Yeah.
Less paperwork for commercial, probably.
Yes. No, seriously. All I have to have, I do all my business as a transaction broker
Yeah. Okay.
because in Kansas, if you're dealing in the commercial industry, you're saying that you're savvy enough to understand
Right.
the business.
Okay.
And so I have to have, a copy of the contract, the closing sheet, and a copy of the deposit receipt. That's basically my file for the state of Kansas.
Okay.
Now, I did ask Father Nikolai to do a seller's disclosure statement.
Right.
And I do, and maybe you and I could team up on the Father's deal, and but I want to kind of treat it more of a commercial deal.
So you're selling a church?
Yeah,
Okay.
but I think it would make a good home.
Oh, convert it into a
Yeah.
residence. I've had that thought before about other churches, not that one specifically, but yes, that's a great neighborhood. It's a quiet area, and it's a good area for people who say like trees, as opposed to newer areas where the trees aren't so mature. But so what we call mature shade would be right there with that church building, and I'm sure it probably has some really cool stained glass, I would think, if I remember.
Yeah, the
building.
stained glass is going to stay.
Yeah.
The
So-
relics of the altar you can't get around the altar during showings today.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent you a copy of the first show I did with Father Nikolai. It's it's gotten some views. I think last I saw it was 30 views.
Really?
But I want to help Father Nikolai do his new project out on.
Does he want to build a church somewhere
Yeah,
else?
he's going to build a whole new complex.
Okay, well, if he's going to do that, you have to make him promise not to build one of these aluminum building type churches.
Okay, it won't be.
Like you see out in the country where they throw up these sort of butler style buildings, and I mean, I think a church should look like a church, but
Well, we
what
can
do
have-
I know about churches?
But we can have church right here. You don't. A church is not a building; it's in your heart. That's
I
anyway.
understand. I get that. But
All right, so we've gone across the
you
gamut.
got these churches being built that look like they're self-storage units or something. But that's me kvetching.
So this
forget
is
about it.
two seasoned real estate guys talking about the Topeka factor and trying to do our best to put a positive spin on it. And if you'd like to come on the
But-
Topeka factor,
But in addition to being positive, we are also going to be telling it like it is, in the parlance of Howard Cosell.
well, and I've always done that.
Yeah.
I always like Howard. You know what I liked about Howard was his relationship with Muhammad Ali.
I know.
That was cool.
Yeah.
Muhammad Ali, or Cassius Clay, as I like to say, he was one heck of a boxer.
Speaking of boxing,
Oh, no.
I guess on the Topeka factor, we could mention that there's going to be
A slap down?
mixed martial arts. There's a big show coming up Saturday over there at the Great Life Gym, the old YMCA building, 4th and Van Buren. And John Cantrell and a bunch of guys are putting together this program of mixed martial arts.
All right.
And that's
Well, let's promote them.
It starts Saturday night around 6. And if you wanted details, if you're seeing this between now, which is Wednesday,
Right.
and then Saturday the 26th, I guess you could just call Great Live.
Well, we could also, these guys, we'll do a live
Yeah.
video with them.
Well,
We can take it to the streets.
we probably should.
Hey,
yeah.
give them your phone number if people need to get
My
hold of you.
phone number?
Yeah, why not?
I don't return phone calls.
He
but
does too.
Feel free to call me at 785-969-4986. Operators are standing by to take your call.
Henry McClure live, and thank you again for another Topeka Factor.